Hello everyone. Welcome to this brief overview of our proposal for the real-world clinical trial methods cluster. I am Dr. Ehsan Karim from the University of British Columbia School of Population and Public Health. Today, I am going to be talking why developing and evaluating causal inference methods for pragmatic trials is important for patients. I will also present some of the specific details of our proposed methodological research project. This mini presentation was created for the real-world clinical trial or RWCT methods cluster, which is a methodological research funding wing for the BC support unit. This unit is interested in methodologically addressing and promoting the patient-oriented research within the province of British Columbia. Hopefully, this mini presentation will help disseminate the value of methodological research to its various stakeholders and a broader audience. In this slide, you can see an overview of the mini presentation of our proposal. At first, I will talk about the background of comparative effectiveness studies and some of the measures we use to quantify the impact of a drug on the disease outcome. We often call this quantity as the treatment effect. Then in section 2, I will give justification of why we may need to use causal inference methods to estimate the treatment effect under the real-world conditions. In section 3, I will describe some of the gaps in the literature in dealing with some complications that arise in practical settings and some of the proposed solutions or approaches we want to adopt in this research project to address those complications. Finally, I will introduce the members of our research team. Clinical trials that are conducted to obtain regulatory approval for a new drug or medical device are known as registration trials. These trials are very restrictive. Patients with other diseases and older age patients are often excluded, and only expert clinicians deliver the treatment under stringent monitoring. Due to such well-controlled conditions, results from these trials often overestimate benefits and underestimate harm, and may not be generalizable to a wide range of patients. For example, many beta-interferon trials exclude the multiple sclerosis patients over the age of 50. In some short-term clinical trials, it has been demonstrated that beta-interferon treatments are effective for those patients included in the trial. If a patient is diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at the age of 55, it is difficult for a clinician to decide whether the beta-interferon treatment is appropriate for that individual. To demonstrate the real-world effectiveness of a treatment in a broader range of patient groups, pragmatic trials are gaining popularity. Pragmatic trials are designed to evaluate the effectiveness of a treatment in a real-world clinical practice and thereby inform healthcare professionals, patients, and other stakeholders about the implications of taking that treatment from an evidence-based approach. However, pragmatic trials bring additional challenges while dealing with a wider range of patients. In these trials, not every patient does what they are told. Some patients may discontinue treatment or switch to another treatment due to side effects. Some may use additional treatment not allowed by the study protocol, and some may be lost to follow-up. In this research, we are particularly interested in analyzing data from a pragmatic clinical trial where non-compliance or incomplete adherence is an issue. In the medical literature, some of the fairly simple statistical methods are commonly used to address this issue of non-compliance. However, many of these methods may not be able to provide valid estimate, and advanced causal inference methods may be necessary to address the problem adequately. Therefore, the title of our research proposal is Developing and Evaluating Causal Inference Methods for Pragmatic Trials. To help us understand some of the concepts in this research, let us go through a motivating example. In a clinical trial in Indonesia, Sommer and Zeger studied the effect of vitamin A on child mortality. For the purposes of illustration, let us assume that there were 6 villages. These 6 villages were randomized to receive vitamin A supplements or not. After randomization, there are 3 vitamin A villages and 3 control villages. Unfortunately, not every child in the vitamin A villages received vitamin A. Part of the reason was that some mothers did not or could not go to vitamin dispensing locations to pick up the supplements, even though their children were assigned in a vitamin A village. On the other hand, vitamin A was not available for the control villages, and therefore none of the children from the control villages got vitamin A. So the non-compliance was only happening to some of the children in the vitamin A villages. For simplicity, we will just assume a child in the vitamin A group either takes vitamin A or does not. Data from these trials are popularly analyzed using the intent to treat or ITT analysis. ITT analysis does not care what happened after the randomization. This analysis would compare children in the vitamin A villages or C plus N versus children in the control villages or P. Here, ITT analysis compares group of patients based on their treatment group assignment at randomization and does not consider whether the participants actually took the treatment as intended in the protocol. ITT estimate is influenced by the degree of adherence and provides an average estimate lumping together the people who may or may not have adhered to the treatment. Such averaged out result may not actually reflect the true benefit of the treatment for a given patient. Patients and their healthcare professionals are likely to be more interested in results that are more clinically relevant to them. To deal with non-compliance, PAR protocol or PP analysis is often used. Another analysis approach is as treated or AT approach. As the randomization at baseline is broken due to non-compliance, only patients who complied with treatment assignment are not comparable to patients in the control group. Similarly, only patients who complied with treatment assignment are not comparable to patients aggregated from the control group and the non-complier group. Usually, this is due to the fact that patients within complier and non-complier group may be somewhat different with respect to clinical, social factors or educational level. These factors may have attributed them to behave differently, resulting in non-random compliance. Therefore, none of these estimates from PAR protocol or as treated are able to produce unbiased estimate of treatment effect, in particular in the presence of non-random compliance. In the presence of threats such as incomplete adherence, causality may not be reasonably inferred using these simplistic approaches. We need to apply various causal inference methods to fix the broken experiments. Let us discuss the specific objectives of our research. For adjusting for incomplete adherence, only controlling for variables measured at baseline may not be sufficient. We may need to additionally adjust for post-randomization prognostic factors measured perhaps longitudinally after randomization. Standard regression tools are often inadequate, particularly in adjusting for post-randomization covariates. It may be necessary to utilize advanced causal methods to infer causality from the resulting estimates, such as G methods proposed by Robbins and colleagues. In the literature, there has been limited investigation of how to apply this approach, in particular when some of the longitudinal measurements are missing. We want to address this practical issue in this objective 1. Instrumental variable methods or IV approach is another popular modeling choice to deal with non-adherence. Using these methods, we can estimate a quantity called patient-oriented effect, that is, the effect of actually receiving the treatment. These methods do not require collecting data on post-randomization factors. This approach instead assumes that the indicator of randomization group is an instrument. However, much of the analysis in the health-related applications are too simplistic, considering compliance as a binary phenomenon. In this objective 2, we want to address partial non-adherence, which is a more practical problem in the pragmatic longitudinal trials. Most of the non-adherence adjusted estimates are inefficient. Two-stage least squares is a commonly used instrumental variable estimator which is particularly vulnerable to this precision issue, especially in the presence of weak instruments. Newer instrumental variable-based estimators are proposed. For example, one such an approach is non-parametric causal bound approach. There is no comprehensive methodological comparison or simulation conducted in the literature to systematically compare and contrast these methods. In Objective 3, we propose to compare these methods under different realistic settings and identify scenarios in which they are more appropriate to use. For this project, I, Dr. Korim, is acting as the project lead. Other members include Professor Gustafsson, professor at the Statistics Department at UBC, and Professor Hu is a professor at the Simon Fraser University at the Statistics and Actuarial Science Department. Dr. Ong is an associate professor at UBC at the School of Population and Public Health, and Mr. Oh Yang is a research assistant working with this research team. Dr. Samar Hezazi is an epidemiologist at Fraser Health. We will also engage patients as research team partners for their valuable input. Once the research is complete, we hope to communicate and disseminate our results to the knowledge users and researchers interested in conducting patient-oriented research within pragmatic trial designs. Thanks for your interest in our project.